Hello, today is day 3 of Mental Health Awareness Week, and today we are going to be talking about the stress hormones, and in particular we're going to be thinking about fight or flight and how to calm down our stress hormones. So of course the fight or flight mechanism can be very useful if we're running away from a tiger. It can be life-saving for our adrenaline, for our sympathetic nervous system to kick into action, so we can make our getaway quickly. But if our tiger is our life or job, our relationship problems, all kinds of issues, then these are things that are constantly there. And we can find ourselves, without realising it, to be living our lives very often in that sympathetic nervous state, and as a result feeling very anxious. Now, because in running from the tiger we need energy and we need it quickly, that can cause us to reach for those foods that are the fast-acting sugars. So we can find ourselves going for the biscuits and the fizzy drinks to get a quick burst of energy in order to make our getaway safely. So if we do that, then obviously that becomes a bit of a vicious cycle, and we discussed that yesterday when we were talking about blood sugar. So again, the tips that we learned yesterday are actually very helpful today in thinking about how to control and manage our cortisol. Eating more protein through the day can be very helpful. In terms of other things, a very effective solution can be around breathing techniques, and there are lots of tips online for how to do breathing, but a word of warning with that, because for some people who are particularly anxious, then breathing techniques are not always the best. Sometimes the mindfulness might be a good starting point, and all that means, if you haven't looked at that yet, is about taking a few minutes just to be present and to ask yourself some very simple questions, using your senses and thinking about what you can see, noticing things you wouldn't normally. What can you hear? Really listening out and noticing every sound and taking a moment to do that. What can you taste? Maybe what you've just eaten. What can you smell? It might be the flowers on the table, or maybe you're sitting outside and can smell things out in the garden. And what can you feel? And that might be the warmth of your cardigan, or the warmth of the sun if you're outside, or perhaps you're feeling a little cold. But it's just taking a few moments to connect with yourself and your environment and ask those really simple questions, because in doing that, in being present, your mind's not flying around thinking about, oh my goodness, I haven't done this, oh my goodness, I haven't done that, and you're not getting into a panic. So that's something that, again, with mindfulness, I'd highly recommend you looking online. There are so many things on YouTube that you can listen along with, and there are lots of apps you can download onto your phones now, things like Headspace and Calm, the Calm app. All these things are very helpful. What I would say though is, in practice, I have lots of clients who add these things, but they do them for a while, but like a lot of us, as soon as we feel better, we think, oh, I don't need to do that now, I feel much better. But actually it's a good thing to get into the habit of doing these things, because when we lose that habit, like anything else, then those symptoms and feelings can start to creep back in again. So in terms of our self-care and being kind to ourselves, I'd say about this kind of thing that the key thing is just setting aside a time to do something like this. One of the things I like to do is an Epsom salt baths regularly, and as we talked about the benefit of that for sleep and anxiety on Monday, and I would say that a great thing to do is to use one of these apps while you're in your Epsom salt bath and listen to a meditation or a mindfulness session, and just do, follow the voice and do what they ask you to do, and that's a nice thing to build into your routine, which will be really helpful. In terms of herbal supplements, you may have heard of adaptogens, and these are my favourite herbals and my favourite topic really, and I could talk about this one all day, but I'm not going to. You'd be glad to know. So what I'm going to do is to upload a blog on adaptogens, but basically there are many different kinds. Probably the best known is ginseng. In fact, that was the first one I ever had 30 years ago, was Siberian ginseng. Up in Caithness, when we lived up there, and our herbalist neighbour gave me some Siberian ginseng, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, and it's still my favourite to this day. But adaptogens help us to blunt our cortisol. They help us to manage our stress response and build resilience. And this can also benefit us for our immune health. So it's very relevant right now. And in fact, there's some interesting research going into ashwagandha in particular in conjunction with our resilience to the current virus that we're talking about. So do look into this topic, and we will, you can tell we're live. I've got somebody coming in the room right now, so I'm making a noise. But do look into this topic and have a read of the blog and look at the different examples that we've given for you. And one of the ones I was going to mention actually is a tea, is holy basil, because this is one that, you know, an easy thing to introduce into your lifestyle. There's a lovely tea which is called holy basil, and well, actually it's not, it's called 3 Tulsi. I always get that the wrong way around because I always call it holy basil. Harriet's always telling me, Mum, it's not even called that, it's called Tulsi tea. But it's because its other name is holy basil. But it's a really, really nice tea, a really robust tea, very, very calming. It's a pucker tea that we have and that we enjoy regularly. If you find it a little strong when you first have it, you know, put a bag into a teapot and make enough for 2 cups rather than for 1. But it is a really calming and soothing tea, and it's one of our favourites in our family, and my younger daughter absolutely loves it and drinks it all the time. So that's a nice example. Ashwagandha I'd mention in conjunction with, if you are somebody who has thyroid issues, it's the one that's the most researched for supporting you with underactive thyroid in particular. So that's quite a nice one. But certainly have a look at the adaptogen herbs, and these are herbs that you can take long term very safely, and they do support that stress response and build resilience. And in fact, in our busy lives, we wouldn't be without them, and as a family we all take adaptogens, so that's something else you can read about and learn about. Lots and lots of information online, and actually, as you'll see, we've put lots of studies into the blog, but you know, we were spoilt for choice. There are hundreds and hundreds of studies on the subject of adaptogens, which have a long and fascinating history and really are little miracles of nature. So do have a look at those as well. So I hope that today has been helpful for you, and that you benefit from some of these tips. And again, perhaps surprise someone with some Tulsi tea and see how they go with that to support their own stress response. Okay, we will be speaking to you tomorrow. Thank you.